Okay. Good morning, everyone. Welcome to the Tribute Garden. I'm Karen King. I'm the Commissioner for Public Advocacy and the Executive Director for the Commission on the Status of Women. We are here today to commemorate the 5th anniversary of the Garden's completion. I know it's hard to believe 5 years have gone by. It seems like just yesterday we were here cutting the ribbon, but here we are. I want to thank all of you, our community partners, our invited speakers, the County Executive, Mark Polenkars, the Parks Department, our members of the Erie County Commission on the Status of Women's Advisory Board for your sustained commitment to the Garden. A very special thank you to the Tribute Garden Anniversary Planning Committee, led by Joelle Logue and Faye Martinier, our Master Gardeners, our Tribute Garden landscape architect Joy Keebler, and our trellis artist Sarah Fonzie. And they will be speaking a little bit later on in the program. The Tribute Garden is a real testament to what community engagement and collaboration looks like. So please look around and know that this could not have happened without the complete collaboration of a broad spectrum of community members, including domestic violence service providers and advocates, regular folks who were interested and concerned about the problem, elected officials, corporations, organizations, all came together to realize this vision. So this is what a community project looks like when we all work together. It's pretty impressive, isn't it? And it continues to be an honor to be involved in this most important community project with all of you. So thank you for allowing me to be working with all of you these many years. So I want to thank all of you. And a special welcome to our friends who are viewing this. It's being streamed live on Facebook and will later be aired on our Erie County YouTube channel as well. So welcome to all of you who are attending virtually. I would like to introduce our County Executive, Mark Polenkars, who has remained steadfast in his commitment to women's rights and always committed to this project. Please welcome County Executive Polenkars.
Good morning. Thank you, Commissioner King, for the introduction, and I want to thank and specifically welcome each and every one of you here today at this most beautiful and sacred spot. We were commenting earlier about how every time we did something associated with the Tribute Garden, whether it was the bike-a-thons beforehand, the walk-a-thons, the actual dedication, we always had wonderful weather. So there's definitely someone who's looking down on this location and what we do here at the Tribute Garden because of its importance to the greater community. So on behalf of the people of Erie County, I want to thank you all for being here today at this 5th anniversary of the dedication of the Tribute Garden. There's so many parties that played a role that we can't thank everyone, but there's some individuals I specifically want to thank. Of course, the members of the Erie County Commission on the Status of Women who worked very hard for many years to make this a reality, including our former Commissioner of the Department of Public Advocacy and the Executive Director of the Erie County Commission on the Status of Women, who's here with us today, Sari Becker. Sari, thank you for all your great work. Here she is. And all the members of the Commission. This was a joint effort by the community, as Commissioner King noted. This did not happen because of one individual. This did not happen because of one department. This happened because a community came together and said, we need a place for reflection on the issues of domestic violence. So to the members of the Parks Department, the Department of Public Works, the Erie County Sheriff's Office, the general members of the community who said this is something we need to have in our community as an opportunity for those who've been victims of domestic violence or family members of those we've lost for domestic violence to have an opportunity to come and peacefully reflect on what happened in the past, but also what can go forward in the future, a brighter future for all. And we were very proud when we dedicated this 5 years ago because we knew it would have an impact, but we weren't exactly certain what type of impact until we opened it. And we heard from victims of domestic violence, as well as the family members of those we lost, that how important this site was. And it became more than just a tribute garden. In some ways it became hallowed ground because it became a reflection of the individuals who've been lost by domestic violence or those who've overcome the domestic violence that unfortunately haunted them in their lives. As I said 5 years ago, and I say today, domestic violence is not a women's issue. It is an issue for each and every one of us. And men need to step up when they see domestic violence. And it continues. Unfortunately, in our COVID-19 environment during the past year, we have seen increased cases of domestic violence. And each and every one of us, when we see a case of domestic violence, needs to step up and say, no, not here, not on our watch. So to each and every one of the members of the community who played a role in making the Tribute Garden a reality, I want to thank you. I remember when we were doing it. It didn't necessarily look every time it was going to happen, but it did. And it did because of the hard work of many. It did because many people came up and said, we need to make this a reality in our community. And to each and every one of those who played a role, I want to thank you, because our community is a better, stronger place because of this. And it tells victims of domestic violence that you matter, we care about you, and you can lead a better life because you have the community behind you. So thank you to all who played a role in making this happen. And once again, every time we have this, we have a beautiful day. It must say something about what we did here. Thank you all.
Thank you, County Executive Polenkars. So look around. It's beautiful, isn't it? This really was a collaborative effort, but under the expert wisdom and design of a very talented landscape architect who has lovingly been committed to this space and continues to contribute to the enhancement of this space. I want you all to please welcome the very talented landscape architect, Joy Keebler.
And I'm a little bit smaller than the county executive, so I'll bring this down here. Is that okay? Can you guys hear me? All right. When I was first approached to design this garden for the survivors and victims of domestic violence, I was certain that we could do the design, as we have designed many gardens for very specific needs, healing gardens at hospitals, teaching gardens for the community. But upon meeting this incredible group of people, I innately knew that this project would be different. The myriad of emotions tied to such a design ranged from sadness to fury, from anguish and remorse, from defiance to personal strength. And it was important to realize that every person who visits this garden may be experiencing any or all of those emotions, and to create a garden that acknowledged and honored each of those emotions equally would be a challenge. But it was through the sharing of stories and experiences that this Western New York community evolved this design together. The process of the design allowed us conversations with survivors and with families. And during those conversations, they spoke of thresholds. They shared with me that weeks, months, or sometimes years, people would stand on a threshold, not able to move forward. But when the decision to move through that threshold was made, it was made. The garden brought the threshold to life through entrances and especially through the trellis, which welcomes us toward the light, not only on the summer solstice, but on every day. The trellis frames the healing powers of water and literally wraps us in the world's patterns. The elements making up the garden, the water, its material, the compression and opening of spaces, all the way to the most delicate and symbolic plants, each element has come together in synergy and offered comfort and solace in a way that only a garden can. So 5 years later, on the same 26th day of September, we return to the garden. This garden has brought a voice to those that too often felt that the conversation was not being heard and that it was not loud enough. The need for awareness was paramount to breaking the cycles of violence that often impacted generations. Today, as we are surrounded by the pandemic, so many literally overnight felt the walls close in. The solace they found during the workday or school day was suddenly gone. The reports were flooding in, and the Governor Cuomo was mentioning it on his daily briefings. The increased rates of domestic violence were being seen worldwide, as well as in our local community. The impacts that we have seen because of COVID have been significant. The devastating loss of life and the impact to our economy are things that I would never diminish. But as I stand here today, I want to speak of the blessings of this new global condition. blessings that we might never have seen had it not been for us to be forced to walk through a threshold on the second week of March 2020. Today, we all now have a relationship to threshold. We now have an understanding of what it was like to be terrified by, I don't know what will happen to me or my family on the other side of this moment. And that is a very profound shift. Every one of us now has some sense of what it is like to be one of the women or the families that sit on that threshold. And we can no longer be shielded by our lack of experience. But I see another blessing, our willingness to take this conversation further into the light, to peel back more of the taboos, and to speak authentically about the impacts of domestic violence on our personal lives as well as our community. We are speaking about it now on social media, in our houses of worship, and with our neighbors. Last year, about this time, I was honored with being named a woman of influence in our community. And with that honor came a beautiful gift to the organization of my choice. And I chose to use that gift to bring the final piece of this garden to life, the inscription of the poem on the stone seats behind you. And I'm honored to see that come to fruition for our celebration today. I do not wish to suddenly see more names on this wall to memorialize or honor more victims because of COVID. But I do wish for these walls to be filled with an outpouring of love, support, and honor for all those brave souls who have stood on the threshold, made their decision with conviction to move toward the light and to break the cycle that they were imprisoned by, whether that moment was 20 years ago or yesterday. Our wish for the Tribute Garden to continue to be a space of strength, solace, remembrance, and celebration for 5 more years, for 25 more years, for 105 more years. And with that, I would like to close with a reading of the inscription. This land is where the sun brings new energy by day, where the rain washes away worries, where the breeze blows new strength in your being. Walk gently here and know its beauty, hope, and peace. Thank you so much.
And if you all turn, you can see the inscription on the stone seats on the berm. Thank you again, Joy, for continually giving to this beautiful space. Thank you. If you look behind me, you see a beautiful sculpted trellis. And it has quite a bit of significance, but I'm going to introduce the artist that designed it and made it, Sarah Fonzie. I'm going to ask her to come up to the podium, and she will give you a background on the meaning of the ark and as well as her latest contribution to the garden. So please welcome Sarah Fonzie.
Hello. Thank you all for being here. As an artist, you always want to strive to create something that will spark conversation and meaning. And for me to be asked to be a part of this really meaningful project gave me so much honor. The group of people who made this project really come to fruition were so diverse, and that was one of my greatest inspirations for the design of the trellis. The issue of family violence is not specific to any certain group, and it really reaches across the world. So throughout my sculpture, I drew inspiration from textiles, from heritages around the world, and it can be seen in a patchwork of different patterns that all come together into a almost embrace by this warming sculpture. It hopefully will look somewhat like a figure, and as you pass through will feel like a hug. I think there's no doubt that when you look at the beauty of this place, that you know that we care about these victims and survivors and the families that are affected by domestic violence, by the beauty and the tranquility of this place and the real success and how it turned out. And of course, as you look through it and the setting sun glimmering off of the water, you really see the light at the end of the tunnel, and know that you're worthy and that you should find and seek the support and help that you need. So I truly hope that this sculpture in this place brings people closer to serenity and the peace and love that they deserve in their lives. And I hope that my contribution, as well as everyone else's here, and the support from our sponsors and community members, that people really truly feel that they deserve it. Just recently we added a marker to signify it, and I hope that people passing through the park who have seen this place a dozen times will be drawn in and will come in closer and read about what this place truly means, and it will just encourage enlightenment and to bring the issue to the forefront of people's minds. And that's really how we provoke change, is by talking and acknowledging that we have a problem. So I will unveil our new marker here. Thank you.
Thank you, Sarah. And make sure you all take a moment to read the inscription before you leave today. We have an event here every September. It's the last Saturday in September. Originally, it was a bike-a-thon and walk-a-thon in order to raise funds to get the garden completed. And once we hit that marker, we transitioned to a plant-a-thon. In fact, Joy and I kind of brainstormed that idea over coffee. When I had first come on board in 2016, I said, what are we going to do with the garden? And we came up with this idea, let's make a plant-a-thon, and let's invite middle and high school students to come here, and let's give them a service learning opportunity so they can understand the significance of this space. They can provide a service. They can assist under the tutelage of our master gardeners. I see Jerry in the background, who have been tending to this garden lovingly over the last several years. So that's what we did. And the first year we rolled out the program, we had about 50 students show up on a Saturday morning early. And they spent the morning planting bulbs, weeding, learning about the significance of how to plant a bulb properly. But they also learned about domestic violence in our community and why this space was created. They also learned about the resources that are available should they or someone they know or love need help. And we always invite someone to speak on that from a very personal perspective. So it is my honor to introduce a survivor of domestic violence and now a domestic violence advocate. So please welcome to the podium, Ava.
Good morning. I have the honor and privilege of being a domestic violence advocate at the Family Justice Center. I am also a survivor, knowing all too well the multitude of barriers domestic violence imposes. And with the onset of COVID-19, those barriers became even greater. A worldwide pandemic shut nearly everything down, and home became the safest place. However, for those experiencing domestic violence, home can be anything but safe. At the end of our last day before going to transition to moving into services remotely, I sat outside our agency building and I cried. I didn't understand how could we continue to do what we've always done and still keep people safe without being on site. Would they know we're still here? I knew what it felt like to fear and not know what the next day was going to bring. However, from the moment that we received our first phone call remotely, I knew that this was going to work. And this worked because our clients found ingenious and brave ways to contact us. Our service providers found ways to collaborate and provide services in ways we never have done before. It was this amazing effort that included Erie County Family Court, the District Attorney's Office, and all of our partnered agencies that allowed for us to help continue to keep people safe despite what was happening. And our work is not done yet. It will never be done. To the friends, family members, and loved ones of survivors, we need you. To anyone who is suffering in silence, we hear you. To survivors coming forward and reaching out, nothing can stop us, and we will always be here to support you. To all the outstanding domestic violence service providers and our community allies, we thank you. And to those who have tragically lost their lives to domestic violence, we remember you. Thank you.
Thank you, Ava. And she always avails herself. Anytime I need someone to come and speak, she always makes herself available, and we're really grateful for that. I mentioned the middle school and high school students who participated in the Plantathon, and then in February, every February, we host a Teen Relationship Violence Awareness Summit with between 60 and 100 students from across Erie County who attend, and Ava speaks, and it is, you could hear a pin drop. And these are 16, 17-year-olds, and she really speaks to them, and her message really resonates. So thank you for sharing that. Thank you for your courage. Well, right now, I want to, I'm going to invite our final speaker, but I want to invite all the commission members and all the folks that have been intricately involved in creating this garden to come up to this podium, because we're going to be presented with a proclamation. And I'm not going to accept it by myself. So I want you all to come. You know who you are, don't be shy. Commission members, community members, domestic violence advocates, service providers, our sheriff's department. Tiffany.
Yes.
Am I gonna have to call names? Come on, folks. We have another Tiffany. I'm combing the landscape here to make sure you're all here. Tamina, great. Is Sari here? Sari's here, okay. So we're very honored to be the recipient of a proclamation from Governor Cuomo. So please welcome Jennifer Dunning. She is the Office of Governor Andrew Cuomo's regional representative here in Western New York, and she will be presenting a proclamation to us. So welcome, Jennifer.
Thank you. Good morning. I would like to thank the Erie County Commission on the Status of Women for inviting me to speak today on behalf of the New York State Office of the Prevention of Domestic Violence and Governor Cuomo and honor the 5th birthday of the Tribute Garden at Isle Park. Gardens are truly the cornerstone of our communities, rooted in nature and growth. They represent traditions of support and outreach for humanitarian causes that impacts people's lives. As the first permanent garden of its kind located on public land in the United States, this garden represents perseverance and hope for so many. It's a living monument that honors so many who have no longer are here, but those lives and stories will remain with us forever. The fact that it was funded by Erie County speaks to the commitment and dedication this community has invested in itself and the people who live here. We are grateful for the social, emotional, and educational support and DV information this garden provides, and its ability to foster partnerships between local county officials, schools, colleges, local organizations, and agencies. As we prepare to enter into the DV Awareness Month this year, more than ever, we must work together to reach everyone, survivors, allies, systems, whole communities, in a creative and non-traditional ways that we haven't in the past. With so many isolated in their homes, no longer able to find refuge and support in the workplace, at school, and places of worship or community spaces, we must go to them to be as available as possible to provide the safety and support they most need right now and into the future. This year, the state will highlight survivor stories throughout the month of October, guided by the theme Survivor Voices, Survivor Choices, to learn from survivors' experience so that we can best serve all New Yorkers going forward. Today's occasion serves as a lasting reminder that we must all take a stand against domestic violence and those who perpetrate it, in memory of those who cannot speak for themselves, as we gather and honor the lives and legacies of so many family members, friends, neighbors, and other loved ones that we have lost over the decade. In celebration of the Garden's 5th birthday, I am honored on behalf of the New York Office of Prevention of Domestic Violence and Governor Cuomo to stand with all of you in memory of those who have died as a result of domestic violence by gathering here around the stones, naming supporters, survivors, and those we've lost to violence. Commissioner King?
Yes. Thank you.
You're welcome.
Thank you.
Yeah.
Thank you, folks. Thanks for joining us. Please take some time to look at the beautiful engraving and the plaque behind us and enjoy this beautiful morning. Thank you again for your continued support.